Gets more pirates in XMT versus CB clan war. This time we're going to flip to the CB perspective in this land battle. Vampire Coast versus Beastmen. Let's take a look at what we've got going here. Noctilus leading the counts, or the coast rather. He is a count. Rejected count, to be honest. Anyway, Death Guard, Halberds, Regiment of Renown, and then we've got the two Rotting Prometheans, one of them being the ROR, of course, as well. Not ROR Necrofex, very interesting, but we've got double Gunnery White. Good old Gunny, definitely one of my favorite characters historically. Generic characters, that is, of course. Apologies about my voice, still a little under the weather, but we got Morgur, the Shadowgrave here, Bray Shaman, Lore of Wild, some Khorne Gors. Butchers of Kalkengard, gonna get blasted by that Necrofex immediately. Gore Herds and Ungor Raiders. Plenty of Ungor Raiders in this matchup are warranted. And we're going to see Coast come forward here and just apply some kind of mid-range pressure. What are the Gunnery Whites shooting at? Looks like we've got them focused on the Bray Shaman. Some massive damage coming in on the Ungor Raiders there from the Scab Scrats. Good old Scab Scrats, well seen in White Kings, honestly, for the vampire counts. You don't see Gunny as much for Coast these days. You just don't see the Coast that much these days in general, which is why these last two battles have been such a treat. But we do get some Traderkin as the Butchers of Kalkengard moving in. It's the Turf versus the Surf as they prepare to smash these crabs open, eat some crab legs. Let's see how they do in the front line. Bloody River Depth Guard now countercharging in. Morgur moving up, looking to summon some spawn perhaps. But Ungor Raiders doing a nice job here. We've got Centaur's throwing axes on the flank as well. That should do some really nice armor-piercing damage against Lampreys. There's no, like, pistol or any other kind of pressure to push them away, so they're going to get free value here. Yeah, we see the Butchers of Kalkengard disengage and then come back and re-engage where the Bloody Reavers are not. The Eternal Halberd Curse, of course, coming back to haunt them. Morgur charges forth. He's being very brave right now. He will probably get mobbed in melee here pretty badly, but at least he has the missile resistance to shrug off any and all missile attacks, pretty much. The Gunnery Whites being unable to harm him meaningfully with their ranged attacks, but honestly, they should just switch to melee mode and go 3v1 on him real quick with Noctilus. They actually could probably knock him out despite his regeneration. Melee defense is honestly not that good. We see a 2v1 developing there, but Ungor Raiders, nonetheless, just showering in arrows along with the throwing axes. We see some return fire from the Necrofex Colossus there, which is getting some pretty good value shooting at those cavalry there. But Lampreys taking some pretty serious damage. Still haven't dropped any unit models, though. Just barely dropping their first unit model then. Cows come home once again for another flank charge here. Rotting Prometheans do have charge defense, so you do want to make sure you get past their front arc. But Crumbling kicks in, that Devolve tearing away some leadership. And it's looking like the Beastman rush is being executed fairly well. A lot of undead units have crumbled out. Bloody Reaver Death Guard got a little carried away there, just kind of killing chaff in the center, and ultimately were not able to get over to this critical engagement. The other Rotting Promethean did break through, mucked up these archers a bit, but we've got a nice tactical reserve here of Khorne Gors for the XMT player. I believe is Maydave here. Those will be nice to have in a minute, but right now they are... does he even need them, really? Perhaps at this point he does. Gore rush starting to fall apart a little bit as they run out of leadership. The dual hand weapon Gores, nice little anti-infantry bonus to +5 now, with good weapon damage overall. Makes them a good kind of mid-tier damage dealer against light troops, especially with their speed. Zombies literally can't outrun them, so I really like the pick here, but ultimately they are going to run out of steam. Khorne Gors pulled from tactical reserve now to engage, should make quick work of the Rotting Prometheans. And the Butchers of Kalkengard looking to try and maybe move in, finish off these Gunnery Whites here. The Rotting Prometheans just then fall. Lamprey's Revenge, still a couple of unit models just barely hanging on there, but the Bloody Reavers move in. They're going to help maul the summoned Chaos Spawn, but that's fine. Morgur, I believe both of his summons have gone off. Looks like he just took the Spirit Essence, actually. Not take the other on-demand summon. Very interesting. But let's see. Necrofex Colossus. I'd be surprised if it's paid for itself at this point. These things are a little bit jank right now. Oh, the gunner, that's the gunnery white. How about the Necrofex here? Yeah, 1448, definitely not great. Forget how expensive they are, honestly, because you very rarely see them. Excuse me. I hope that when the Undead get some updates later this year, that hopefully we see the Necrofex get some love. Both the base variant and the Regiment of Renown are quite janky in my experience, but let's see. Got some self-healing on Noctilus here as the Gunnery Whites push forward, but despite their armor, they're going to be taking a huge volume of fire here from the Ungor Raiders, and even their little 1 AP shots will do damage when there's, you know, multiple hundreds of them shooting at him at the same time. Yeah, we see that Gunnery White going into crumbling there. Horngor's moving in for some bloody combat against the Bloody Reavers. Lots of blood happening in the blood combat. That's so Warhammer. Absolutely fantastic. And we see that spell effect, Traderkin coming in doing some really nice direct damage. Bloody Reavers, although they do have quite a few unit models, still have less, and therefore will take greater damage from that. The damage scaling more optimized against lower model count targets. Little Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma on the Butchers of Kalkengard is really all that Noctilus can conjure up at this point. Didn't bring Pit of Shades, which maybe would have made a difference here. Hard to say, even especially if you had it in this late game to try and like blast out some of these like Khorngors and stuff. Probably would have made a pretty significant difference. The Ungor Raiders here also definitely need to be respected. They are one of my favorite low-tier archer units because of the stock, because of that high model count. They've got not decent melee stats, but you know, they at least are pretty fast. They can try and get out of danger, but yeah, relatively poor leadership, but they are relatively cheap as well. So definitely a big fan of Ungor Raiders, and especially against the faction like Coast. You know, that stock comes in handy super well, because Coast's scouting is kind of poor, and they often rely on long-range damage, right? So that stock is really nice to have here. The mid-range is low mid-range is a little bit tough. 115 is really not great for a bow unit, but then again, you got lots of numbers here. They can soak up some losses and still have a very high volume of fire. It's coming down to just Noctilus at this point, faced with the entire Beastman horde himself, so we'll fast forward through that glorious final stand. And that'll be it. Victory for XMT, putting them up 2-0 on the series. Well played both to Red Play Show and Maydave. Fun one for sure. Interesting matchup. Very, very interesting matchup. For Red Play Show here, I like the pick of the Gunnery Whites quite a bit. I think they are pretty underrated and can definitely do quite a bit of work with that Scab Scrath and just kind of plinking away at high-value targets. But Necrofex ended up pretty much paying for itself, which, you know, nice to see. I actually think if the Fire Necrofex, if the Regiment of Renown was kind of working as intended, it would be fantastic in this matchup, because you'd be able to clear out a lot of this chaff with that, and then kind of use the rest of your army to roll up your opponent's ranged units to a degree. But Rotting Promethean's definitely a meta pick in general, but here, Maydave had the right tools to deal with them, certainly. And then the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard is an interesting pick as well. I mean, Halberds generally tend to be decent against the Beastmen. They're going to have some large, big beastie for you to fight somewhere. But they often can get outmaneuvered as well, so I almost think maybe you break that value out into more mobility units. It can be a little bit tricky to micro, but if you have like a mix of Bats and Hounds, you have the Dance Macabre spell, you can overcast it for a nice little AoE attack bonus, rather, to help win out some of those mobility engagements against the lighter Beastman units. Can be quite good, honestly. But, yeah, Ungor Raiders getting some nice value in here. Khorngors, Tactical Reserve Khorngors come in and clean up some value in the late game. And then, yeah, like I said, I like the pick of the dual hand weapon Gors, even if they don't strictly rawly pay for themselves. In a nice wide army like this, they are gonna, well, you know, one or two of them finding a little weak point can do some pretty good damage for the cost. Overall, very nice build from Maydave. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to stay tuned for more Clan War content and we'll see you next time.